Ni hao, this is Charlie Otani, the Brooklyn Healer, coming to you alive and direct from a secret location somewhere in mainland China. How long I'd been lying there face down in the Tibetan snow is difficult to say, but everyone in the nunnery was very pleased that I'd been found and relieved that the extent of my frostbite had only reached my middle toe. Apparently, I was the first male to have entered the Forbidden Valley in over 21 years. As my Tibetan improved, I began to understand that everything that had happened to me was part of some ancient prophecy, and the nuns had been awaiting my arrival with growing impatience. As the snows fell on the higher plains, so I was instructed into the subtle ways of the healing plants and flowers of the lower pastures, and of one plant in particular, Hypericum Perforatum, Milpetui, or St. John's wort, as those limeys call it. Now, over in Europe, it's been used for centuries for the treatment of minor cuts and abrasions, burns in particular, and in more recent times for its antidepressant qualities. But out east, around the slopes of Dharamsala, it is as a powerful aphrodisiac that this plant is venerated. And according to the tradition, it would be me, accompanied by only 9 nuns, who would harvest these tiny little yellow flowers. I underwent a grueling training program, designed to enhance rhythm, power, suppleness, endurance. Happy days, as the snows finally melted on the lower plains, so I was ready to embark on a quest, the memory of which still kind of haunts me today, What happened on those slopes remains a blur of yellow petals and olive skin. The aphrodisiac potency of the plant was such it would take us literally a whole afternoon to gather just a handful of the tiny little yellow things. By the end of the 6-week pick, I was a shadow of my former self, a skeletal figure. I could hardly remember my name. After an emotional but kind of welcome farewell, the nuns returned to the nunnery carrying their precious load, and they left me there, bruises all over my body, rags on my back, but 953 milliliters of pure pharmaceutical grade Hypericum Perforatum oil. Now, here in China, the aphrodisiac potency of the plant is not as strong as it up there in the mountains, but still, it's quite a potent thing. And over in Europe, it's pretty strong too. Now, the 24th of June is St. John's Day, La Fête de Saint Jean, the Feast of St. John, El Fuego de San Juan, as they say in Spain. It's one of those festivals where people jump over fires and they have a party and all that. It's all to celebrate in the Christian tradition of St. John the Baptist, who was actually a great healer. Now, St. John's wort, as the name implies, is the flower of St. John, and it is most prevalent at this time of year. So, we're going to go out and have a look at this plant and see how you can harvest this, because really and truly, as well as its aphrodisiac potencies, which, as I say, are much less in Europe than they are over in Tibet, it still has a lot of that going on. But what it is incredibly good for is burns, any skin injury. You get sunburn, you put it on. It's an after sun. In other words, you put it on in the evening and you stay out of the sun with it, okay? But it is incredibly good at fixing all kind of burns, any bruises, any cuts, all that kind of thing. You put it on. It's an amazing healing ointment, okay? So we're going to go out, we're going to find some, and I'm going to show you how we prepare it, okay? Come with me. The Chinese mountains. Don't you just love it, huh? So, St. John's wort, it's a yellow flower. But it ain't that one. It ain't that one. But it is this one over here. Come on in, Mei-Ling. Take a good little look, so we can get the viewers to have a real good idea of how it is. So, you notice with the flower, it's got 5 petals. They're almost a bit like a propeller. That's an important shape. But the thing about it is, how you really notice it, you see the tiny little leaves growing off one thick stem here. It's got these little shorter stems that come off. The stem's smooth, slightly red to color. These tiny leaves, what you do is you hold them up to the light, and you will see lots of tiny little holes in them, okay? You probably won't be able to capture that, but that's how you do it. They're tiny, not quite microscopic, but they're the size of a pinprick. The name in French, millepertuis, it means 1,000 keyholes, and it's relating to all those small holes in there. So that's how you notice, you know what it is. Also, another way of noticing it is, it's got its pollen here. It's slightly reddish, okay? And that's important. That's where a lot of the active properties are. So to pick this thing, the way I do it, okay, there are two ways. A lot of people just cut the whole thing and put it in a jar of olive oil and it's all good. The way I prefer to do it, it's over a number of days. You see, this one's a new one. That one's yesterday's flower. This is going to be tomorrow's flower. And it's going to be flowering for about two weeks, okay? If you rip up the whole plant, that's it. It's over, gone, finito. But if you just take the ripe flowers, you can come back every day for a fortnight, and you can just keep on picking, keep on picking, keep on picking. So, here's what I do. I got a regular jar, like a jar of honey or something like that. Quite often, if I got a top pocket, I put the jar in the top pocket, which means both my hands are free to pick these flowers like that. In they go. I'm just picking, just picking where possible the ripe flowers. Okay, we pick them. Just getting in there like that, okay? See how that's done? Over to the next one. You see, because I didn't pick them all, the flower's still, you know, I didn't rip up the whole plant. The flower's still here tomorrow. It's a great idea, you know. Pick all the flowers. You can get the yesterday's ones. Sometimes you get some of the other ones. That's okay, all right? Now, because we're on film, I'm just going to get a few of these. But you'll imagine, within about 15-20 minutes, you got the whole thing filled up, okay? Thanks a lot for the gift. I'll see you tomorrow, ladies. Okay. So, now we're going to go back to my laboratory. I'm going to show you how you make an oil from this, okay? Once we've made the oil, we can then make an ointment. And I'll show you, explain how we make an oil into an ointment. It's real quite simple. One of the things we need for making an ointment is, you see over there? Those are Chinese beehives, okay? From Chinese bees. As well as making honey, they make wax. And that's what we use to make an ointment. We mix beeswax with the oil. My friend Dan Wu, who's been keeping these honeybees, he's going to give me some of that wax, and that's how we're going to make Charlie Otani's Miraculous Remedies Hypericum Perforatum oil. Let's go. So, here we are at my laboratory. Okay, so we get our flowers. What I got here is 100% organic olive oil. I actually get this from a small producer in Catalonia. I don't know, for any of you people out there in the United States whose geography ain't good, Catalonia, that's like in the Pyrenees. There are a range of mountains in between France and Spain, okay? South of the Pyrenees, the French side and the Spanish side, okay, there's an area called Catalonia. That's Catalonia. He makes the olive oil. He gets it pressed up in an old mill where there's an old donkey going round and round and round, mixing the olives into olive oil, pouring it out. He then puts it on the back onto a mule. The mule then traverses, that goes over the Pyrenees, sells it to one of my agents who puts it on a boat. All the way to Shanghai. It gets picked up by another agent, and he brings it to me out here in my secret location in mainland China. So, this is absolute... this stuff is real beautiful stuff. It's like nectar. So what we do, we fill the jar with olive oil. Okay, I'm going to put the lid on that because it's precious stuff. Okay, now you can see it's all kind of yellow. What'll happen is the petals will wilt a little bit and the olive oil will rest above it. You see it's yellow? This one I made couple of days ago, the 21st, on the solstice, and you can see it's already started to go red. That is actually the pollen from the Hypericum flowers. They're what makes this red. In fact, when you pick it, I don't know if you can see the tips of my fingers. All right, you see that kind of purpley? That ain't because I've been doing mechanics, you know, working with a leaky flower, a leaky fountain pen, that's because of the pollen on those, okay? That's the pollen from that, okay? So it makes it go orange and then to red. What you do, you leave it, this is important, you leave these jars in the sun. Very important that this oil has the sunlight on it, because there's a chemical in the Hypericum Perforatum oil that if you just do it in the dark, when you put it on your skin, it reacts with sunlight and it can actually stain your skin, okay? But if you do it in sunlight, that chemical is destroyed by the UV, which means you can put it on your face and you ain't gonna get any blemishes or any of that. It's completely safe. So, you get your oil, you fill it up, all right? You leave it in the sun for 6 weeks. That's 1 lunar cycle and a half. At the end of that, it's going to be a bright red. You then strain it. You English people know about tea towels, right? You get a tea towel, you put it in a funnel. You then pour this whole thing over, letting the tea towel act as a filter. You will get the oil into a jar and you keep that. That is your oil. Now, as I said, it does have strong aphrodisiac potencies, you know. So you can just use this as a regular topical oil. Just let spirit guide you. You'll have a lot of fun. Another thing about Hypericum Perforatum oil, it is an aphrodisiac, but any of you ladies taking oral contraception, you got to be careful, because Hypericum Perforatum actually counter-affects the effects of oral contraception. So I gotta warn you, if you want a bit of bada boom, bada bing, you're gonna have to think of another form of contraception, because it does affect the pill, all right? It counteracts it. Another thing about using this, as I said, it's an antidepressant. A lot of my clients who come and see me, they want to get off antidepressants, something like Prozac or that kind of thing. What I do is I give them a course of Hypericum Perforatum, but I don't use oil. I do the same system, but I make a tincture mare. I make a tincture. So I put the same thing, but instead of pouring oil over it, I use vodka. Okay, I got a great friend in Siberia. He makes organic vodka. He sends it, puts it on a boat over to Shanghai, gets picked up by an agent, brought up to me. And so we do the same thing. Same thing with the vodka. Put the plant in the vodka. It'll pretty much go red almost instantly, because it's very soluble in alcohol. And once you got the oil, that's your oil. You can use it as a massage oil. Any cuts and bruises and abrasions, use it on there. As I say, for burns, it is absolutely fan-freaking-tastic, okay? You put this stuff on, it is going to cure you. It's an after sun, so you don't use it as a sunblock. Don't go out in the sun in it. You use it at the end of the day as an after sun. It is incredible, but it's good for a whole lot of things. Cuts, burns, abrasions, all that kind of thing. Now, to make it into an ointment, because, you know, having a load of oil knocking around can be a little bit dangerous. You know, it can spill, it can ruin your suit. So what you do is you take the oil and then you get some beeswax from my friend Dan Wu's Bees over there, and you mix some beeswax with some of the oil. I ain't going to give you the precise measurements. Just play around with it, for Christ's sake. You know, you'll be able to work it out yourselves. You mix the beeswax, melt it in with the oil. You don't need a lot. Then it'll harden up, and you can put it in a jar and you can carry it around, and it's a lot easier to put on. Okay, so there you go. Hypericum Perforatum. This is coming to you from Charlie O'Taney, the Brooklyn Healer, on the 23rd of June, the day before the fair, according to the Spencer Hill Song, and the day before the Feast of St. John, which is what this plant is known as. Hypericum Perforatum, St. John's Wort. Really and truly one of Mother Nature's perfect, incredible remedies. You stay safe. You have fun out there. Spread the love. Coming to you live and direct. Charlie O'Taney.
Gonna take a holiday where the sun don't shine. Watching telly in the daytime. Drink a carton of wine. Carton of wine. They're putting something in the water. Yes, it's driving me mad. Things I should know, it's turning me